We will now move on to the next and the last segment of the day, which is a scientific conference on strengthening the mathematical foundations for enabling field deployable AI models, an Indo-French collaborative effort. To give the talk, we have with us Professor Chiranjib Bhattacharyya, Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Automation, Indian Institute of Science. Prior to joining the department, he was a postdoc fellow at UC Berkeley. He holds a bachelor and master's in electrical engineering from Jadavpur University and the Indian Institute of Science, respectively, and completed his PhD from the Department of CSA, Indian Institute of Science. Before I give the floor to Professor Chiranjeev, I would like to remind our audience that towards the end of the session, in the last 10-15 minutes, we will take up the questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the Ask the Questions tab. Over to you, Professor Bhattacharya.
Thank you. I believe I sent the slides. So would anybody put on the slides, or should I share my screen? Okay, and I can just say next slide. Would somebody help me go to the slides? Okay. So thank you again. So good evening to all attendees, learned guests. It's absolutely an honor to be here making this presentation. So my name is Chiranjib. So today I'm here to speak on some of our research. So it is, so I work in AI. When I started working in AI, that was 2 decades ago, this excitement was not there. So today I am delighted to see like 2 of our great nations, India and France, have come together in a knowledge summit and having a special focus on AI. So now this excitement about AI builds on the premise that AI can develop deployable technologies which can make a change in people's lives. So that's what I call as field deployable models. And as an academic, more I think about it, I see there is a strong need for developing the mathematical foundations. So today I'm going to share some of our results, which has been derived with my colleague, Professor Francis Bach from INRIA. And then we will show you a couple of examples of field deployable models, which are independently done. So with that, can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Yeah. So now the first question that comes to mind, what can AI accomplish? Now, this is a question riveting, circling on all of our minds now in this day and age. So if I may borrow one of the notable intellects of this century and the last century, Professor Stephen Hawking. So he says that we do not know where AI will take us, but whatever it is, at this point, we have to invest in AI research and drive it in a way so that it benefits us. So with that premise, if you want to look around the world, and what do we see? We see great challenges. Can I have the next slide, please? Can I have the next slide, please? So United Nations have set for us a very important goals called Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG goals. So there are 16 goals of them, and you see, and I personally believe that AI can address or at least make reasonable contributions to all of them. So I really don't know how is it possible, but in our efforts, we are interested in 2 of these goals: good health and well living, and even quality education. So we're going to show you some of the results as we go along. So can I have the next slide, please? So now, as we said that, right? So the AI is throwing up foundational challenges, but to develop AI in the field, the foundational challenges which I think are more important is that, can I guarantee that whatever models I'm learning actually reflects reality, which is often called model discovery. And of course, it has to learn with large amounts of data. So scalability is an important issue, but that's not new. But again, as everyday data is expanding, hence scalability challenges are growing again and again. But what is very important, and it has reached, now it has taken, there's a lot of discussion around this, the ability to explain your decisions, your predictions, which is often called explainability. And of course, there's another thing is, once you have a very nice model, but to take it to field, there are lots of other issues which academicians have not thought about. For example, is the final technology easy to use? So ease of use. and then is a lot of people using it. So, for example, is it adopted widely? So these are some of the challenges to develop an AI model and deploy it in the field. So can I have the next slide, please? So in this talk, what I will do is quickly go over one of our results, which is derived with my colleague, Professor Francis Bach. And then we'll talk about two instances of field deployable models. One is an X-raySetu, which was launched because of ongoing COVID pandemic. And third is we will see some social robotics helping out special educators. Yeah, so now can we have the next slide, please, to launch our mathematical foundations? Yeah, so next slide, please. So this is a one-slide summary of what machine learning is, if you can think about it. So we are given a data set D. And now what we want to do is to find out a learner. Let us call that learner F. Now you want to fit the learner to the data. So let's have a fit function. And then you also want to do is that the complexity of the function should not be too much. This has got lots of the roots rooted in Occam's razor and other things. But this is in principle is, in crux of many machine learning formulations. So one thing we want to look out for is that, okay, I've learned this. So what should F do? So for example, I have learned on this data set D, but when presented with unseen data, F should generalize L. So this is sometimes called the generalization characteristic, accuracy of prediction on unseen observations. Now, as you see, there's this thing called minimize, right? So, when it's a minimize, so when it's basically when I'm writing fit, I'm thinking more like a loss function. So you want the loss to be as low as possible. The fit should be very good. So now this minimization over F does something like optimization, but then I have getting random draws from data, and then I have to prove that my generalization is accurate and so on. So there's to statistics. So this interplay of optimization and statistics is a very important, let's say, paradigm, if you will, to. So can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So towards that end, Francis and me have been thinking around this problem, that how do you solve this, and so does others, all researchers. But Francis and me thought about this, and we are going to present a result which some of our students were involved. So here are pictures of some of the students, but in the interest of time, I'll not go. Let's go to the next slide. Right. So there are two things. As I said, optimization and statistics, right? So the optimization angle comes in that I have to learn over large classes of, large volumes of data. So minimization over F, you can think about. So Pachinto and Francis and me wrote a nice result. And then can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. And then comes this idea of regularization. These are some of our results which we developed. So regularization is essentially the idea of thinking about how to characterize the complexity, and then also come up with an algorithm to finding the learner. So as you see, this is a very wide area, and we thought we made some very good progress over the last few years. And I want to thank the Indo-French agencies which has enabled us to undertake this collaboration effort. Can I have the next slide, please? So now what I'll do is I will take the next few minutes to describe one of our results, so this is mathematical foundations, to illustrate the point that how even simple problems are today unsolved. So mathematics has a long way to go before it can be deployed in the real world. So this is one example we'll talk about. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So to motivate this example, I'll motivate this problem. I'll take two examples. One is in genomics. So gene expression data sets are widely used, and gene expression is an important component in understanding the genomic basis of various diseases and things like that. So often what happens is that since we do not have a very good clue of for many diseases which genes are causing which are causing certain diseases, what scientists do is they try to experiment with many genes, and these are often called gene expressions. The idea is only very few genes are causing a particular disease. So which are they? This is often called biomarkers and things like that. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, switching gears, here is another example. Every time you go to a restaurant, you probably have, sometimes you write reviews. So this is an extract from Yelp is a website where people generally write reviews. Now we want to know that if somebody is writing reviews, the reviews would have negative, right? Does it affect my number of customers, right? You want to solve this kind of problems. So both the previous problem and this problem can be thought about in a unified way. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So often a simplistic take, of course, that in the first case you want to predict that, can I predict what is the expression level of a particular gene, right? Where I equal 1 through D is number of genes, right? And Xi's are the genetic expression levels of a particular, of the ith gene, right? And your model here is W, right? And the second case, what you want to say is that Xi is like the ith word. So if, for example, if I see certain words, right, the dirty, food, glass, you can think about where you don't like restaurants, right? Dirty food, the waiters were rude and things like that, right? As such words appearing. So Xi could be the number of times a particular word has been said, I being the ith word. Now, in both these cases, if you assume there is a W, there's a linear model, you may want to say that, can I find W showing such a large number of such reviews or showing a large number of such gene expression data sets? Now finding such a W becomes challenging when there are many irrelevant variables. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, I would ask you to ignore this. This is for the experts in the room. But the idea is that this problem can be a little bit intractable because there are many irrelevant variables. That is, there's a W star, the true model, which is most of its elements are 0. So the set of only relevant variables, let's call this set S. Now, finding such a set, is from a limited amount of data is actually intractable in general, unless we make certain assumptions. Now, can I have the next slide, please? So now one way to solve this problem is to use so-called linear regression. So as we talked about before, fit function plus complexity function. So the first term is a fit function. Then you see omega of W, that is more like our complexity measure. Now, traditionally, people have tried something like ridge regression. But what people have found is that Lasso is a well-known tool where you use the L1 norm. So those of you who are not familiar with these terms, you can ignore that. But the point being that, so there are mathematical tools to address this. However, can I have the next slide, please? So here is a dirty looking thing, right? But however, the Lasso helps us guarantee, guarantee means theorems of these kind, which shows that, it can indeed discover S under certain conditions, of course. Can I have the next slide, please? But so long and short of the story is this. See, Lasso works beautifully when the columns, where column means each example is a column, when the columns are each example is a row, so columns are number of features, and the features are uncorrelated. If the features are correlated, then Lasso cannot solve this problem. Now, you see, we are in the field, we're developing very, very complex models. In a simple model like this, we do not know whether it's describing the true model or not. So this kind of problems is of great interest to us. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so here's an example. So now, if suppose there are two groups of features that are heavily correlated, right? So in the top is the original signal, and if you throw Lasso on it, you see you get almost random things. So it cannot recover the true signal. Now, can I have the next slide, please? To that end, there is this very interesting idea of using ordered weighted L1 norm. Again, this is just to say that like you don't have to understand all these things. It's just to say that there is a variation on this norm, which can help solve this problem. Can I have the next slide, please? So as you see now, this norm really does this. It indeed recovers the true model. However, it still has biases. For example, can I have the next slide? Yeah. So you see, if if it was not flat, if there was some other more nuanced things, so for example, the WI weights were different, lasso, even owl could not do it. So we came up with this thing called smooth owl, which does some of these problems. The idea behind walking you through these results is that these are the kind of results which I think is fundamental and was possible because we had a good collaboration with my colleague Francis. Students benefited and they matured. So I really want to thank this Indo-French initiatives for enabling such collaborations. Can I have the next slide, please? So if you go to this paper, you will find lots of open questions being answered, and I really enjoyed this work. Now, so these are many such results have been obtained by us, and now I want to talk about two example instances of field deployable models. I can have the next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So now, as COVID was raging, we were thinking, scientists, what can we do? So one of the biggest problems we find in today's world is bridging access to healthcare. Now, often healthcare is somehow, quality healthcare is somehow, clustered around urban centers. So many parts of the country, we do not have quality healthcare. So at least I said, I am a scientist who has expertise in AI. So what can we do? So that's what started. So me with my good friend who is the CTO of Niramai, Dr. Geeta Manjunath, and with Art Park, it's a non-profit company. We thought about this interesting idea about using X-rays. We'll not go into the history much, but we'll tell you what we'll try to present what X-raySetu is. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So maybe we'll since we talked about this and there's not enough time, so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. Yeah. So when we started this problem, so the first instance this comes is that so how can AI help? Which can bridge this access gap, right? So one of the first thing that came out is that where you don't have too much resources, the best thing you can do is to use X-ray imaging, and this came out from a study from international study, right? So LMIC means that is for low and middle income countries. So for a country like India, this would be absolutely appropriate and the right thing to do in the context of a pandemic. So that's what triggered our thoughts. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So then one of the things is that if you travel around the country, you will see X-ray machines are available in many places. So radiographers are available, but radiologists are extremely few. So for every 10,000, so I think India barely has 10,000 radiologists, and most of them live in cities. So even if X-ray comes out, somebody has to tell them, somebody has to tell the patient that, okay, is the X-ray good or bad, and what can be done. So especially in COVID, it was even more unclear because even radiologists did not know because they haven't seen these things before, right? So I thought, can we do something about it? And that started this discussion. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so this took the shape of what we call as X-raySetu. So Setu is the bridge which tries to bridge the access gap. So now to help better explain what a X-raySetu is, I think there is a video after this. Can you play the video? Can you go to the next slide? There's a video. Can you play the video, please? Just click on that. There's a video. I can't hear anything. Is the audio? Is the video playing? Not playing? Okay. Oh, I sent it earlier. So let me see if I can share my screen, and that's why I sent the video earlier. Anyway, let me share my screen to see if it solves the problem. Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen and see if that helps the case. So shall I? Okay. Okay, so we are in this slide, and then let me do this.
65% of the 1.3 billion population lives in rural areas. Rural India has only one radiologist for every million Indians. COVID-19 has rattled our health infrastructure like never before. RT-PCR tests are often delayed in rural India. X-rays can be a faster way to...
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Sorry about this.
65% of the 1.3 billion population lives in rural areas. Rural India has only one radiologist for every million Indians. COVID-19 has rattled our health infrastructure like never before. RT-PCR tests are often delayed in rural India. X-rays can be a faster way to identify COVID and early intervention. Introducing X-raySetu, quick chest X-ray interpretation for doctors via WhatsApp. Developed by the AI researchers from Art Park, Niramai Health and IISc. X-raySetu, bridging the gap between accessibility and technology. How does it work? Step 1. A doctor clicks the picture of X-ray image using her or his mobile phone. Step 2. The doctor then shares this picture on WhatsApp with X-raySetu at 804-616-3838. Step 3. X-raySetu AI service automatically generates a provisional report within minutes. Step 4. The generated report has probability of COVID, pneumonia, markings on the lung image, and markers to other abnormalities. The doctor gets the report within minutes on WhatsApp. X-raySetu helps our COVID warriors in their fight against COVID. Key highlights. 300 plus doctors have trusted X-raySetu over the last 10 months. X-raySetu is accessible and easy to use. No apps to download. It works with both analog and digital X-ray machines. It also works on low-resolution images. It marks 15 lung abnormalities, including COVID. The best protection is early detection. Here is what doctors say about X-raySetu. X-raySetu, built for doctors, easy and quick X-ray report. Try the free beta. Check out www.xraysetu.com today. Share a picture of X-ray image on 804-616-3838.
Okay, so that was a brief introduction of X-raySetu. So I just got a time check. I think I have only 10 minutes. So what I will do is, I was thinking of telling you something more about what is in X-raySetu, but I will skip that and go to our next portion on autism, if that's okay with you, because I only have 10 minutes to begin with, right? So I'll again play another video here, right? It's a 10-minute video. I think we can just see. Can you hear it? Can you hear and see this?
How are you? Hi. Very good.
Hi. What's your name? What is your name?
Lightning and thunder is seen when it rains. We make people watch and play. We carry umbrella and we wear raincoat when it is raining. Welcome to Robot Weather Session. My name is Chiranjib. What is your name?
My name is.
I am 5 years old. How old are you?
I am 16 years old.
Is a 16-year-old verbal child. His responses to questions based on lesson or about himself was always in short phrases. After introduction of Cosmo in his lessons, he is able to answer in long sentences. His interest in Cosmo has helped him progress at a faster rate. She never liked to do exercises. Also, her very slow movements, in spite of the teacher assisting her, took a lot of time in the gross motor sessions. We observed that when we paired her sessions with a drone, her interest in exercises improved, which was a great relief to the teacher because she showed a lot more interest.
Since he's very much interested about electronic gadgets and all, drone motivated him a lot in doing exercises, and his attention level has increased a lot, even the focus. So it's like for him, like kind of a wonder thing for him that he has got a drone. Because of this, he's very happy and he's following the drone instructions, everything. And now he's doing exercises with the drone, not without. I mean, without drone is not at all very good.
Can we do a storytelling session today? Can we do a storytelling session? Yes. Okay. You like cosplay? Oh. Can we do exercise now? I did not hear. I could not hear you. Okay, Cosmo. Oh wow, super.
So that's all I had to say. Thank you for listening. And I also thank the organizers for inviting me to give the present our work. Thanks again. We'll be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya, for this insightful presentation. It was really interesting. We do have some questions in the audience, in the chat box. So the first question that we have is, in the application of model building for field applications such as X-raySetu, how do we make some continuous validation or verification of the model once in the field?
Okay, so what I understand is that how do we know that our model is making the right predictions as in the field? So obviously this is a challenge. So what happens is the best prediction is, the best way to do that is you have to follow up with the individual patient and say whether this person, our prediction was right or wrong. So given this COVID's early days, we are wherever possible, we are collecting this information and retraining our model. And also on the same note, since this is an audience and there are many important people, I'd like to know this requires money. So anybody who want to support our research would be greatly welcome, to continue these efforts. Yeah. So, but we are, wherever possible, try to follow up with the people who are sending us those images and then trying to update our models based on that.
Thank you, Professor Bhattacharya. Our second question is, what is the next AI-based revolution that the Indian industry is going to see, according to you?
I'm sorry, I find myself challenged to answer this question. So personally, I would like to think that Indian AI industry would, the revolution which you're going to see would be more on social space. By social, I mean not social networks, but you see the SDG goals, how to make us healthy, how to make us, educate better, lessening inequality. So I think financial inclusion, technologies which enable these things. So this we will see a convergence of large-scale platforms. We will see convergence of this multimodal AI data processing will come together to, for example, make more quality offerings, specifically in education. See, already we see there are many unicorns who are like Byju's and others, right? Who are making waves in Indian society. We will see more high quality. By that, what I mean, Byju's. I'm not saying Byju's is not high quality. I'm saying you will see more interesting startups of that kind will come, at least in the education space and also in the healthcare space. For example, our result on X-raySetu is showing that today somebody from a remote corner doesn't have to travel to a city to take an X-ray and see what it is. So I think these kind of things will happen more. But again, I don't think this is a comprehensive answer to the question asked. But personally, I'm quite excited by the possibilities especially in education and healthcare. That would be my answer.
Thank you. We'll take the last question for the day. How much do you use traditional mathematical algorithms in the AI-based applications currently?
I do not know how we define traditional. But the thing is, what we are finding is that the example which I showed you, the problem looks very simple, but it's unsolved. So, and also we are finding that the more demands people make on our models, it has to be accurate, it has to be explainable, it has to be not very complex. We see the only fallback I know is based on mathematics. So I think we will also see a very exciting, I would say, almost a revolution, even a focused area which will bring mathematics, statistics, optimization together for these kind of AI models, which are field deployable.
Thank you, Professor Bhattacharya. I think with this, we'll close our session. Thank you once again. We have now come to the end of day one of the Knowledge Summit. I would once again like to thank our speakers, our moderators for their participation, the entire team of French Institute in India and Savitribai Phule Pune University for organizing this wonderful event. I would also like to thank our audience for taking time out from their personal and professional schedules and making this day a huge success. The next 2 days of the Knowledge Summit will be dedicated to another scientific conference by Professor Chris Bowler on Tara Ocean's Ecosystems Biology at Planetary Scale, and webinars on 5 broad themes: One Health, Marine Sciences, AI, Sustainable Energy, and Green Chemistry, Biotechnology, and Natural Resources. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. With this, I will now sign off. I wish you a very nice evening and a very pleasant day to our colleagues and friends in France. Goodbye. Adema.